Sweet eternal balance of all that is good, true, and beautiful, friends. Today we are here to unveil a series of synchronous associations that led our intrepid seeker down the paths of white rabbits, past the fences of the secretive, into the marshes of the past, and under the noses of the elite. Not many would venture to wander and gander so deeply into the shadowy hidings of the well-weaponed, but Derek Murphy has an undying thirst for the truth and can't stop, won't stop until he quenches it. Come follow us into a grand unifying conspiracy that is sure to tickle your taste buds for the bizarre and the hidden with us today on Rogue Ways. But first, before we continue, I want to tell you that Rogue Ways is part of the Eyes Open network, and we invite you to join us in the Eyes Open Facebook group, on the Rogue Ways org website, or on the Rogue Ways YouTube channel. We hope to see you around. I love you all so much, and I do this shit just for the fuck of it. So if you want to support what I'm doing, I would love to give you something back for it. Go check out the offers I have for you and feel free to kick a little something my way if you love Rogue Ways or any of my other work. I appreciate you so hard, and I am grateful for each and every one of you. So we start with a pointless question of the episode, every Rogue Ways episode. Today, the pointless question for you, Derek, is what is the one thing you would create more of in every realm and at every level of humanity if you could, and why?
Okay. Hey, what's going on, everybody? How's it going, Lindsay? Great to be here.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for giving me a platform to just get all these threads out of my head.
I've been pumped for this for months.
As far as your pointless question, I was really kind of nervous and overwhelmed all like night and morning. It felt like I had like a presentation in school.
Yeah.
So when I saw this, I was like, okay, I'm gonna think about that later on, and I never really thought about it. So my gut,
now it's here.
My gut instinct when I first saw it was just I would want to increase the happiness at every realm of existence. I mean, just I want everybody to be happy. That's my thing. You know what I mean? So like, as long as you're not hurting somebody else, do whatever you want. Just be happy. You know what I mean? And that can, whatever that means for each individual person, will be completely different. And in every realm will be different, but just more happiness for everybody.
I love it. I love it so much. That is a beautiful intention to have for the world. And I'm glad that you shared that with us. I would be on the same sort of wavelength as you. I was going to say more love. So I guess we're just like hippie nerds together.
Perfect.
All right, Derek. So let's start off at the beginning. What got you thinking about looking for trouble in your world?
I work at a supermarket overnight, so I listen to a ton of podcasts. I just stock shelves really fast and just listen to podcasts all the time. And the night consists of like the first hour of the night, it's me and my boss. We like break the truck down, which is like the pallets of all the stock, and we got to separate it by aisle onto like all the U-boats and stuff. So it takes like an hour, and it's just me and him, and we got to like shoot the shit and talk. So we started doing that right when we first met, and we tried to like just make conversation and stuff. And then before we knew it, he's an adult. Like he has kids who were like 18.
He's like a real adult.
He's a real person. Yeah, exactly. And so he like wasn't into conspiracies or anything. But then somehow he got into the topic, like he watched like Ancient Aliens or like Ghost Hunters or something. So we kind of started to just talk about kind of all the basic paranormal conspiracy 101 stuff that I hadn't really thought about in a long time. So at the time I was really into like the high side chats, Duncan Trussell, kind of just consciousness and just like dreams and like ancient civilizations and that kind of stuff. And I wasn't really interested in UFOs or any of the regular stuff. But by having to talk about it and kind of like talk about it with him, explain it to him through my new prism that I have, it kind of like created this in my mind, kind of a unified theory of how this all could exist. While also like other researchers in the fringe community were talking about how orbs and UFOs and cryptids and all this stuff are probably similar phenomena.
Yeah.
So this is all going on. And then so I'm kind of re-examining the basics of everything fringe, and kind of like reconciling it all together. And when you do that, the thing that kind of jumps out at you is that like what I've noticed is that a lot of researchers after their first book or after their first big topic, when they're looking for the next thing, no matter what it is, they're kind of leading them into like the sacred sites, the ley lines, the portal field, because it's kind of like the thing that links everything together, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And then also, I'm from Massachusetts, which is like kind of where the nation started. But as far as conspiracies and ancient stuff, you don't really hear much about it. Like so I was really big in like the whole Graham Hancock ancient like pre-flood civilization. Like to accept all this stuff, you pretty much have to believe that there's something pre what history would tell us, pretty
Pre
much.
what we're told, at least.
Yeah, yeah, like pre-Diluvian, like Atlantis or whatever this
Whether
global, huh?
whether it's like the mud flood thing where it's a lot even more recent than we think, or whether it's like
Mm-hmm.
the sort of traditional conspiracy view where it's like thousands and thousands of years ago, just that there is some predecessor civilization.
Exactly. Yeah. Like whatever that grand global maritime civilization, whatever that was. So there are pyramids and these ancient sacred sites and these crazy ancient technology all over the world, besides where the current superpower decided to set up shop. Like in the 13 colonies, it's pretty much like we don't hear anything about this area, basically.
Nothing. Yeah.
Like, at least on the surface. Like the Southwest, American Southwest has a bunch of stuff, and then like Portland and stuff has a bunch of stuff, and then South America and everything, and then obviously the pyramids all over the world. So I'm like, that has to be weird. So in my mind, I'm thinking that the story we're told is that everywhere else has all these crazy ancient tech, but us in pretty much Africa, it was just a bunch of people running around in the trees, and white people had to come and civilize them, pretty much.
Yeah.
And that doesn't seem like it's right. So I was thinking that probably for a few hundred years, the conquistadors and the crowns had their explorers go out and pretty much just pillage whatever they found. And I'm assuming that pretty much they might have found like an El Dorado or some kind of like Egypt in North America, basically, and just or whatever the equivalent would have that would have been. And but as far as like what I knew was around me specifically, all I knew was that there's two Raytheons. There's one Raytheon in my town and one Raytheon in the town next to me, and they're like 5 miles apart, less than that. They're very, very close to each other.
And Raytheon is a mass arms producer, right?
This is that, yeah. It's the number 3 defense contractor in the country.
Yeah.
We'll get into that later, but this is just my state at the time. And then I also knew that both Bushes, like Bush HW and Bush W, went to Phillips Academy in Andover. So I knew that the elites at least knew we existed, knew this county was on the map because they went to school here.
They're hanging out there and sending their kids there.
but other than that, I didn't know anything about here, really. And that the only thing maybe close to us was just like all the stone chambers that are around New England, and then like the Ohio mound stuff. Pretty much what the entire east side of the country has is the mounds, and that's what kind of I was thinking about at the time.
Yeah.
And then there's a Mary Joyce episode of High Side when she was talking about the underground bases of the like the Appalachians or like the East Coast down in the Carolinas.
Mm-hmm.
And just the crux of the episode, pretty much, they were just talking about how they hide, the Smithsonian, the government, whoever finds this stuff or hides this stuff on like highways or golf courses or government buildings or reservation lands or just things like that. So that's in my head. I'm like, holy shit! Like
it's everywhere.
It's everywhere. Like, and in Eastern Mass specifically, like anybody around here will relate. This place is a maze. There's no straight roads. The whole area is just a bunch of hills, and it just you don't know where the hell you are.
Yeah.
So like,
it's very discombobulating.
Yeah. So like on the way home from work, I would drive around for like 45 minutes, kind of to smoke and just drive around. And I found this route that kind of like pops me out. I went into my town. I drive through like 3 other towns, and it pops me back out at where I live, pretty much. Mm-hmm. And but all across there is the Raytheons and the reservations and like 3 different golf courses and all kinds of stuff, huge technology parks, IRS buildings, tons of stuff. So I'm like, what are they hiding? And in my mind, I'm thinking like underground bases, kind of. Yeah. Like that's where I was at the time. So then I got a ley line quote that I found. So I was researching this ley line stuff and how possibly like they're trying to unify the stuff together. So one quote I found was a great scientific instrument lies sprawled all over the entire surface of the globe. At some period, perhaps over 4,000 years ago, almost every corner of the world was visited by a group of men who came with a particular task to accomplish. With the help of some remarkable power by which they would cut and raise enormous blocks of stone, these men erected vast astronomical instruments, circles or erect pillars, pyramids, underground tunnels, cyclopean alignments whose course from horizon to horizon was marked by the stones, mound, and earthworks. Essentially saying that there's like unifying similarities or these structures that we see all over the planet were created by essentially, if not one like region, by like a global civilization. I mean, that was like whether or not it was a directed like going around from place to place teaching people something, or if it was just like what would happen if the world apocalypse happened right now and how we build up, what would that look like?
Yeah.
It doesn't really matter, but that's just kind of where my head was at.
It at least indicates that there was people who understood that science of ley lines
Exactly.
and knew how to use it, perhaps.
Yeah, exactly. So my head, the trail is like, it's Atlantis, or Atlantis being the term for just this global civilization.
Right.
So Atlantis to the indigenous cultures of each country. So for us, Atlantis, Native Americans, to the explorers, to the founding fathers, to like the cults, people of early America, like during the witch trials and stuff, and then to the government, and like to the military, and then currently underground, like the deep state and stuff, like the underground, the black projects and the underground bases and stuff. So that's where my head's at.
That's been the like chain of custody, basically,
That's
of
what
these
I think.
technologies. Yeah.
That's what I think.
Okay.
But still not really tied to where I'm at all. And
Right.
then
You're just still thinking of all this generally.
yeah, just kind of shaping it in my head. And then so throughout this like conversation I'm having with my boss at work, he's telling me about, he lives next to this reservation land. It's really dense woods, and like him and his wife cleared it out, and they would go hiking every day. That's like a way to exercise and stuff. And he said like once he cleared it out, it opened up to this like huge marshland with this like island on it, and he thought it would have like a Native American like remnants on it. There's like this turtle rock and stuff on it, and these like mysterious structures that we don't know what they are really. Like we're told that they were used as for target practice by like during World War I.
Yeah.
But I haven't found any evidence of that online at all. And like,
this is in his backyard, literally.
There's a reservation. Like he's like the last house on a cul-de-sac, and then and then like he enters the woods. Like he made a path, and then that opens up to this. Like it just there's so much reservation land. There's so much land that you can't go on, and that just isn't used around here. And
so you're saying reservation land, literally Native American land, or like reserved for other?
Like reserve, like conservation land.
Okay, gotcha.
But it looks like kind of like where Native Americans might have situated themselves. That's kind of I can picture where you're like the chief would be in kind of the hierarchy, and then it kind of leads like you can if you're seeing it, you can kind of imagine it.
Yeah.
And then, but it's right next to these military structures. So in my head, it's just like, okay, this is an area that has Native American ties and has military ties.
Did you want to throw up a picture yet, or?
Yeah.
You let me know.
Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead. Okay. You can go with the structures. So he tells me about this, and then he's also having, or no, not yet. Sorry. Wait.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry. Not my fault. He was also having a bunch of paranormal activity up until this point. Like his daughter has autism, and she was having a ton of scary experiences. Wow. And then also he was seeing like UFOs. His wife was seeing UFOs and orbs. He had a person from MUFON recently, like not at this point, but like a month ago. I have like multiple hour-long interviews with them, and they're like in the process of vetting his shit right now.
Wow.
And he filmed while we were on lunch. He filmed this orb. He installed security cameras because we work overnight, so he like installed like the house cameras, whatever. So like so he knows what's going on with his family.
Yeah.
And I was with him on lunch. And he goes, holy, like usually like a bug will trigger it or whatever. He goes, holy shit. And he shows me, and it's just this ridiculous orb, like it's moving, completely sentient. Like it's obvious. It's not like a ghost orb, but it's like a ball of a light, like a moving unbelievably clearly.
I remember you showed me that, and it's very clear. It's not, I mean, there's a lot of videos where you can be like, well, maybe, and there's like some sort of light aberration or whatever. This is a very clear, like you said, sentient object.
That's like the third one. Like he got two before, and then he deleted it by accident because he's not used to the phone and stuff. Yeah. And then the one that you saw that I still have, that's the one that's like, holy shit. And it's like one in the background, and then there's like one that kind of like is like 4,
pops
and then
up,
kind of like splits into like 8. It's really weird.
It's
weird. So all this kind of stuff combined, like, so all these different unconnected paranormal activity on this military Native American conservation, no trespassing land that nobody's been at because he's the one who cleared the path for who knows how long. I'm like, okay, maybe this is some kind of hotspot. You know what I mean?
Right.
So if you can go to the first picture now.
Sure.
So we go and check it out. Like he invites me over. So me, him, and his wife go walking around his yards. And then we see, so he shows me these structures and these big, like concrete, cement or whatever they are, stone walls that you can see. I mean, somebody was shooting at it, but I researched what a rifle range looks like or what I've never been to one before, but what one would be like around here. And a
Yeah.
lot of times they're like built into naturally existing hills,
Yeah.
so you just shoot the hills.
Right.
So, but these are like real elaborate structures, and they're
And it
real
looks
weird
like it's
looking.
a top of a hill.
Yeah.
Like there's nothing behind it.
Yeah, you can kind of rifle through the first 3 or 4 of them.
Okay.
But like it
Yeah,
looks
like what
almost.
is that? That
Yeah,
does
I don't
not
know
look
what
like
that is.
something
Yeah.
you shoot at.
So at least they were shooting on it during World War One, but it looks like it was built before that. I don't know what it is. It looks like it's like a dam almost, but like just like pieces of it, or like a canal system, or like a mill or something. But there's
Yeah.
like nothing. There's nothing else around that would indicate that at all. It's just these random 4 structure things, and then the marshland, and then the little island that has like the turtle on it.
And these are all the same structures here.
It's like they're just like 4 different ones that are kind of like spaced off around. So that's the marshland. So if I'm standing there and I kind of turn around, kind of just like in a little semicircle, like I wouldn't be able to get all the structures. All the structures you've seen are all different ones, but I wouldn't be able to. They're not close enough to get them in the same picture. So like I don't know what it was when it was fully standing.
I guess I could imagine like, using larger artillery on this type of structure to see if it would break down a wall in a building,
Yeah, no,
if
that's
you're going to
true.
a city or something, but they don't look like they've been bombed.
Yeah,
So
it's weird.
I'm not sure.
It looks like an elaborate way to shoot at something. I don't know.
Yeah, it's a pretty, and it's like this shape here is like, why would that be conducive to shooting practice? Like it's very strange.
And there's like there's one of them I don't have pictures for, but one of them has an actual like tunnel you can go to. Like there's actual stairs that just like go down into the ground for a second and then come back up. And it's just like one wall, not connected to anything else. None of it's connected. It's freaking real weird.
Yeah. So I live next to some military bases where you do have tunnels and weird structures like this, but they are all connected, and you can tell what they maybe were used for. Like they are practical objects, and they're linked together, and they're on a fort. Like they're
exactly. Yeah. So like at the time I was
abandoned, disconnected, really weird structure.
Yeah, unused. So at the time I'm thinking, okay, maybe it's like a lot older than we think it is, and they just shot on it afterwards, or maybe like they flooded this area out. Like I'm thinking that it could have been a military base at World War One time, and then they went underground, that they flooded it out, and like the marshland is like, say you put 20 feet of soil on top of a metal base. What's the first thing that was going to grow there? And it might be those reeds that you show, like in my head.
Yeah.
I'm thinking like maybe they're on top of something like that. And then when we were there, like these 3 military helicopters flew out from like over the tree line, like right next to us. We couldn't hear them, and then all of a sudden, like it seemed like it came from like literally 20 feet from us. And it seemed like it came from like behind the trees. Like there was no warning that they were coming, and then just
they were like fucking with you.
And I've never seen
they don't just do that on accident.
Yeah, and I've never seen anyone ever like it before. Like I looked online, and like it's like it was chrome, and it had like it was like this, and then kind of came up like this, and it sat on those little legs, but there was no actual like helicopter legs on it. It was just like this, just a chrome body, and it seemed like it would land on the little indentations. I tried to look for it, and I couldn't find anything close to it on Google.
Well, that's fucking crazy, because it's probably a secret, advanced technology. That's fucking crazy.
Yeah, so that's what I'm thinking. So then, I'm gonna try to go a little quicker. So then I did
you're fine.
Then I started doing the research and as to who owned this land in the past. And I came up with it was owned by the Pennacook Native Americans, who were a branch of like the Abenaki tribe, and then they're Algonquin-speaking Native Americans. And the thing with Native Americans, it's tough to differentiate them, because like as they were getting pushed farther and farther, like, condensed together, that the groups merged more and more. But I think like the Pennacook was like their like tight group, and they were part of like an Abenaki nation, and then eventually they got absorbed into like the Wamosets and stuff. But
I just want to pause really quick, because when you say Algonquin, the first thing I think about was the tribe that Michael Wan brought up in connection with the Susquehanna River, which is
totally.
So you guys are gonna have to hook up on this eventually. But anyway, go ahead.
Is the next picture the Native American?
The next picture looks like a UFO.
Oh yeah, okay, show that. That's real quick.
Okay.
But there should be 3 in a row. It's like one is just a picture of a marsh, and then the next one. So he took this, and then he listened to a podcast about starting zooming in on your pictures and changing the filters, and then he did that. And the next one he saw like a UFO, and then he zoomed in again, and then he zoomed in again, and it's even closer. This is the one. This is the one of the ones he sent to MUFON. Can you see that?
Yeah.
That's pretty weird, right?
That is pretty weird.
Yeah. All right. So that's just adding to the list
Just
of
one more.
paranormal shit.
Yeah.
And it's like over the same marshland picture that I had from before, pretty much,
Wow.
like in the same spot.
Yeah.
And then there's the next one, Passaconaway. Oh, that's just the Merrimack. That just shows where it goes. It goes from the Atlantic, or it runs out from like that river that goes to like Winnipesaukee and stuff.
Hmm.
Um,
So where are you in this map? Where's all this stuff that you're talking
let
about?
me click on it. You see where it says Lowell and
Yeah.
Lawrence? I am right next to Lowell, right in between
Okay.
Lawrence. So from Lowell
So
to
we've
Lawrence,
got there's another
yep, go ahead.
sorry, another connection to the Susquehanna River. Alchemy one has is that this is all on this river as well.
Exactly.
We'll
Yeah,
get into that
exactly.
later. Okay.
Fun fact, Aleister Crowley spent 3 years at the source of the river, up on
Here?
like the
Oh, the source.
the
Somewhere here.
what's that, whatever that is on the top, that the one begins with a P. That's like,
Oh yeah.
you can see it on
Kind of like a
here.
wall sit.
Yeah, but the water comes from the Newfoundland Lake, or Lake Newfoundland, and he was on the edge, like where the lake met the river, and then that feeds into that river,
Wow.
which feeds into the Merrimack and out to the ocean. And they say that he was trying
So
to open
source.
portals. Yeah, like they say, the idea that he was
What?
like that the Crowley was opening portals, like that he brought the Loch Ness in, like
Oh right,
he
right, yeah.
he wasn't on the loch, he was like on the river next to the loch, which is like,
Right. Was it the source also? I
I'm not
wonder.
sure. It might be.
Because source waters are really sacred, and that's
Exactly.
interesting.
Yeah.
Mm.
All right. So then the
Okay.
next one. Yeah. So it's just between Lowell and Lawrence is where all these sites are. That
Okay.
is all right. We'll do Varnum first. That's Varnum. Joseph or James Varnum. The first Americans to the first like white people to purchase the land, basically, were they got it from Passaconaway, who we'll show in a second. He was purchased by Samuel Varnum, which is his grandfather. He actually like originally got land in Ipswich and then left to go get this land in Dracut, which is weird because Ipswich is like probably it's close to the water, it's on the water. You think you'd want that instead.
Yeah.
And then he got the land from Passaconaway, and then his grandkids. Joseph was, this is James, but Joseph was a U.S. senator since he was like 18, and then forever. And then James was a Continental Army general during the Revolutionary War. Like he was like right under Washington, and then he like led the French troops during like the Revolution. And he was at like what's that Valley Forge? Is that the one where Washington's going on the boat, or
Oh,
like
God,
the picture, whatever it is?
Oh
He
yeah,
was
yeah. I know what you're
he
talking
was
about
there.
crossing the fucking
Yeah,
Delaware or
yeah.
whatever.
He was there for that, I think. And
Okay.
then
He's high up.
he's a big deal. And then he was at the Continental Congress during the founding
Okay.
of the country. He
Ah.
formed the Society of Cincinnati with Washington and a bunch of other founding fathers. He was a Mason, which I found out
Wait,
today.
so Washington was all about the Society of the Cincinnati as well?
I found out today that it was named after a guy like Cincinnatus or something like that. And his whole thing was that he was a farmer, an old guy farmer, who like during some revolution or something, he like threw down his pitchfork or whatever and picked up a rifle and took over the whole, like all the troops. And then his big thing, but he relinquished the power after the crisis was over. So like they say that they modeled the society, the Cincinnati, over the idea of like snatching power but then relinquishing it after it's over.
Huh.
And that's like a non-conspiracity like
Yeah.
definition of them. Like, so I didn't know any conspiracy stuff involved with them until your DuPont episode where you mentioned them.
Oh, right.
Up until that point, I only knew them as they're just a fraternal group that it was started as a for higher ups in the military during the Revolution and passed down to their sons, and they're still around today.
I just feel like anytime you've got these like secret fraternal societies, there's
Yeah.
probably some shit going on. I like looking for any symbolism in this picture of Varnum here, and all I can see is that his stars here are upside down. So like possibly that's
Oh, wow.
satanic. I don't know. But I was looking for like any Illuminati shit, and there isn't any
Yeah, totally.
otherwise.
This is after he was dead. There's another picture I saw when he was alive, and he was way scarier. That's the Society of Cincinnati logo or whatever.
Oh, so we've got the phoenix, we've got the laurel leaves.
Mhm.
Interesting.
And then I was looking at his eulogy and I link and like somebody was eulogizing him, and they had a line that stuck out to me where they compared him to Orpheus. Like his oration or whatever was similar to Orpheus and his lyre or whatever. And his lyre is like the music of Orpheus,
Okay.
or lyre, like however you want to say it.
Um,
And like the harp or the flute or whatever the lyre
which
is.
are
And then
also come up a lot and are interesting in connection. I guess there's also a constellation that's connected with Lyra.
Yeah. And like in Esoterica, Orpheus's lyre is known as like the spreading of secret knowledge. Like that's like the symbol of it. So they put that in his eulogy, and they made another connection comparing him to Orpheus. So I looked up what Orpheus is all about, and his whole thing is he descended into the underworld and came back, and that's like his whole. It's a Dionysus and stuff. Like that's his whole thing.
Okay.
And then is the next one the Native American?
Let's see. Yes.
Okay, that's Passaconaway. He is the chief of the Penacooks. He lived for like 135 years or something like that, or for a long time.
What?
Apparently, he was a giant. He was like over 8 feet, between like 8 to 10 feet.
So he's a giant that lives forever. Like what?
Yeah, and
crazy.
He can do magic. He can light water on fire. He can bring animals back to life. Bring leaves back to life. He can like turn into smoke. And one time he was shown to like play tricks on people, and he like passed like under he like went from one side of a river to another, which would have been impossible.
What?
But he created like a cloud of smoke, and then went under it, and then came up on the other side and was like laughing at the people on the other side or whatever.
And check out his funny hat. We've got all these people, these giants with their funny hats all throughout history. That is weird.
And then you see the wolf or like bear head or whatever on his I think it was the Michael Wan episode of Higher Side where he's talking about the Native American who was tied to the Templars, who was like the Templar like guide almost, had a wolf around his neck.
I do remember that.
Is that one? And this is the only image of Passaconaway that I found that's not a statue. You know what I mean?
Wow.
Yeah. And
you and Michael won't have to talk about this.
And he'll
watch this episode, and then you guys can hook up.
Good. And he was known for his relations with the white people. Like the legend has it, they saw him from the ships. They saw this giant from the ships, and like, who the fuck is that? And it was him. And then like he was brought to Plymouth when they saw the ships coming in. And he, I guess, like had some kind of vision, like his magic, like he couldn't make a storm for like the first time in his life. He couldn't create a storm, and he interpreted it as like he's supposed to welcome the white men, and he's supposed to like bring the good relations between Native Americans and the white people.
Interesting.
Which is interesting, yeah. Especially if the goal of the white people is to come in and grab all these sacred sites, and he's the one giving them away.
Well, and he's clearly like an initiate in his own right. Maybe not of the same tradition as them, but I mean,
he was a shaman, a magic man. Yeah. He was the guy. Totally. He's like, that's what he's known for. He's like non-conspiracy. He's like known for being a magic guy. And he was like, they say he was when he died, when he knew he was gonna die, he like wrapped himself in bear skin and then was like taken up by dragged up by these like wolves to the top of Mount Washington and then burned into flame and flew off.
Wow.
That's what they say. And then his religion, the Penacooks, like their belief system, involves going to marshlands and inducing altered states with like herb, and then communing with the other side, like whether like shamanic states, like going to the other side or whatever they may be. And then also the Orphic religion, which I tied to Varnum, they also induce altered states with wine in a marshland specifically,
and that's where a lot of people do the crossroads ceremony.
It's the name of the reservation land is called Crossroad Rifle Range Reservation.
Fucking what? That's great.
And it's next to a road that's like there's a road in between that road and Crossroad, and then Crossroad never actually forms a cross. Like there's no T shape. It's like the only road it intersects. It's like this. It's not a cross at all. Like
there's no features. Yeah. So that name is indicative of something.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And just as a concept, like I think the marshland is for anyone who hasn't heard of that before, that I think it's because it's where the land and the water meet on like the 3-dimensional plane. And then I think on the metaphysical, it's where the two worlds also meet. So that's where they believe the veil is the thinnest.
Yes.
And then I've been hearing recently, this is just a tangent, but I hear recently a lot about fog, appearances of fog.
Yeah.
And like during paranormal experiences.
Yeah.
And I think
There's
that's
always
because
the mist. You should beware the mist.
yeah, and I think it's the same thing. That's the two states. In this case, it's water and air mixing.
Yeah.
But still, in the metaphysical, it would be the two worlds mixing, and that's where the veil will be the thinnest. They
and when you're talking about him going under that river and creating a smoke, I mean, he's probably like more like a mist too.
Exactly. Exactly.
And that idea of like an area where two sort of elements meet, or two masses meet, or two like geographic areas meet, is that where the veil is thinnest is true of any kind of liminal space. So like that's why it sounds stupid, but that's why people are like, oh, there's monsters under the bed, or there's monsters in the closet. It's like that's where the room meets the closet, or that's where the room meets like the hidden area under the bed. So even places like that have some sort of connection to this, like, where the veil would be thin.
Yeah, and like I kind of like time when you're saying like if my door is like shut versus like almost shut, like I feel it. There's a difference.
Yeah,
like, and that's like I feel like on a higher plane, on like the metaphysical, it's creating like a seal to your zone or whatever.
For sure. And all those elements in nature are just gonna strengthen any liminal space like that. So like a marshland just has all the water energy there, and the air energy is there, and the energy of the earth is there, more so than our like bed or our closet. But it's an even more enhanced liminal space.
Yeah. And I think it couldn't be involved with like the checkerboard patterns on like a game of chess, or like on like the plus ultra place at Mar-a-Lago or whatever, or like the
sort of hidden Hyperborea sort of thing.
Yeah, they have these like checkerboard floors, like black and white tiled floors, that could be the same concept, like the two worlds merging together. And also Washington D.C. was moved from Pennsylvania, or the capital was moved from Pennsylvania to Washington D.C., which is a giant marsh, and they built the capital in the marsh.
Yeah. Work super hard to build it there, but there's no real reason. Yeah.
And then same with New Orleans, where you guys are talking in the in your one of the early episodes of Rogueways, you mentioned New Orleans, about why is it so mystical? Is it like and like they say, like one of the, I heard this on a non-conspiracy podcast, is that one of the biggest feats of like American construction history was like making New Orleans a city, because it's sitting on a big swamp, and that could be the reason, like swampland, wetland. That could be the reason.
And like you're saying, they probably do shit like that on purpose, because if they don't understand how to harness this liminal space and where the veil is thin, then sorry, I don't know why we've been looking at Passaconaway this whole time.
Yeah.
There you go.
I think that'll probably be good for that site, right?
Okay, so then let's move on to the connection. Like, how does this all get connected up with Raytheon?
Okay, so then the next little research project I started doing was just about Raytheon, and just trying to see what's going on with there. And Raytheon, they have their own meaning for what Raytheon means. It's kind of some nonsense. I don't
like what the corporate idea of why Raytheon.
Yeah, what their slogan, like it's supposed to mean. But then the word Ray,
some bullshit thing.
Yeah, but then in like Latin, Ray and Theon are radiant God, so shining God.
Oh shit!
And that could take you in all kinds of directions. So is radiant God? Is that Lucifer? Is that Prometheus?
Ray can also be connected to kingship. Like R-E-Y, Ray.
Yeah.
Like crown or king. So that's interesting too. King God something. I don't know.
Yeah. Well. Yeah. What? And then or Saturn, or just like any kind of bright, when they talk about just these light, any type of light, Apollo or whatever, how there's always like, so during this research, there's all like, when I looked at different pantheons, when I compare the pantheons, there's usually the lead god, like a Jupiter or Zeus or something, and then also a sun god or a light god, and which is weird, because if it's Christianity, the lead god is supposed to be Jesus, and he's supposed to be the sun or whatever, right? So like, what's going on? Why isn't the leader of the sun in all these other pantheons? And then I started digging deeper, and like, it seems like these deities are more like gods of light more than they are of sun, if that makes any sense. So there's a sun god and a light god, like, which might be the difference between like a Saturn and a Lucifer or something like that. I mean, like it gets mucky. Like people don't really even know. You guys are talking about this, like you guys are talking about the other day, like the difference between Lucifer and Satan, and like it's tied in it's the same stuff.
I'm just asking questions, trying to figure it out, because
Exactly.
and people are kind of like, oh, we're Lucifer, like between Lucifer and these other, theistic beings. I don't know. I just want to understand.
Yeah. So basically, I mean, when I saw that radiant god, so I just tie that with all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And then it was created by Vannevar Bush.
Raytheon was?
Raytheon was. So they created the first microwave. That's like the claim to fame. Like if you were to like read their book or whatever.
Yeah.
Which I've done. And he started. Vannevar Bush started. Vannevar Bush was at the Manhattan Project, which created the nukes. He was at, or the atomic bomb, and he was at where he was the head of Majestic 12. Like he wasn't in Majestic 12. He was the head of it. And there's a quote from Eisenhower.
And so Majestic 12 is this like old school UFO research committee for the government's behalf,
exactly.
right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Or MJ 12 or whatever. So any kind of like secret space stuff, like post Roswell, like in the 60s, 50s, and stuff, like basically just a collection of the greatest scientific minds or like the greatest defense like contractors and stuff. Just the elite science guys were tackling this issue or whatever. And he was the head of it.
The kibosh on anybody figuring out what's going on.
So if you listen to any like old guy interview on YouTube talking about like any whistleblower talking about his service or whatever, like dealing with that kind of stuff, he's talking about this era, like this Majestic 12, like Blue Book, Project Blue Book, all that kind of stuff.
Right.
And he was the head. And there's a quote from Eisenhower saying, as far as all this stuff's concerned, you answer to me and you answer to Bush. And that's it.
So and Vannevar Bush is all tied up with Nazis, and fucking that family is dirty.
Big time, yeah. And like I couldn't find a direct link between him and George Bush, Prescott Bush. But how many Bushes? Yeah, I mean, I couldn't.
I just assumed the name.
Me too.
My bad.
No. I mean, me too. I mean, how many Bushes could there possibly be?
Yeah, that's why I'm just like, what?
But there's
especially in leadership roles like that.
Yeah. So if you look at the Reddits and everything on him, people saying like we're assuming he might be, but we just can't find anything like that. Like,
we don't have hard evidence, but
honestly, you don't even really need to in this case.
Right.
And then so Manhattan Project with the nukes, and then he was also at the Philadelphia experiment, which
Jesus.
He with Tesla and Einstein, and the people don't know, it's the one where they were working on the Eldridge, the ship, and it disappeared and then reappeared with people like melted into the fucking floor and the walls and shit. And they said that like they went to another planet, and where they did it, this will tie back in later on, but where they did it was at the convergence of two rivers in Philadelphia.
Of course.
And there's big time nuclear radiation, nuke connections with the soul portal thing that'll come up later on. So just keep that in mind, like the idea of like nukes and portals, whether or not like things that come out of portals have a nuclear radiation, or if they were trying to figure out what the connection is, or if they were trying to open them with nukes. Like the fact that nukes and UFOs and portals are all tying together like this, and the leader of it, the one who's at all this crazy shit, is the one who invented Raytheon. Like, and I don't hear anyone talk about Raytheon at all. Like,
that makes me think too that like, so because we have all these fucking tests of nukes, and you're like, why are we still blowing up nukes for no fucking reason? Like, but if that release of energy is so massive that maybe it can like open a portal or do something like that, maybe that's why. Maybe it's not that they're actually testing the weapons anymore. They're testing like what they can do with that energy on like other levels that we're not even supposed to know about.
And I think it could have been some like trying to figure out, like they notice a correlation between, like they know, or they have an idea. Like I think part of the we'll get into it later, but I think part of this secret knowledge that they have that we don't have is that this map, like of where all these natural portals all over the planet, and they noticed a link,
sort of like ley line map that you were
exactly this ley line grid portal system, and then they noticed a link between radiation, nuclear radiation, and these portal sites they know existed, and they were trying to figure it out. And then I mean, they were blowing nukes up like fucking crazy back in that time period. Like, and now
I feel like they still are.
Yeah, I think they are. At least, I mean, it's probably less than it used to be. Like, we know now, so you should stop doing that because it'll fuck us up.
Yeah.
Like now, it's more like quantum particles and CERN and that kind of shit now. But like, but I think that, I mean, it's one possible connection.
It's like nano nukes.
And then the Raytheons, there should be. I think there's a picture of like a picture of like Google Maps showing all the Raytheon locations.
Is it this one?
Yep. Yeah. I think so. Yeah. So there's a bunch. That's just like the top like 5. So the ones that are the very top ones that are 2 closest together, those are the ones that we're talking about specifically. Like
These
on this.
two.
in my region. Yep.
Okay.
In Tewksbury and Andover, and they're just in the midst of this giant maze in between all conservation lands and stuff. And like when you're driving around, you would have no idea that they're so massive and so close to each other, and it really doesn't make any sense to have these two huge. But they're it doesn't show it on the picture, but they're fucking huge. Like they're absolutely fucking massive, like college campuses.
Wow.
And like, why would they? So at the time, my thinking at the time is, why don't they just have one giant fucking place? Why are they two huge complexes?
Or why 2, 4, 6, 8, 9 this far apart?
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. So it's like at the time I was really into the underground base thing. So much like they're just at the openings. You know what I mean? They're just out that which they're on top of, like, and like Maynard, Mass is like when you look up underground bases, like one of the first 3 you'll see is in Massachusetts, and it's in Maynard. That's like where the FEMA we won't get to it yet. It's the very last picture. We don't have to do it. But so at the time I'm thinking there's a bunch of openings, and they're just at all the openings.
They're just kind of guarding the
exactly. Okay. But then if you kind of zoom out, I mean, it's more on the line that we'll talk about later on the ley line.
I got it.
But it's just, and then I think the next picture should be Lockheed Martin's, or that's just a picture of the Andover Raytheon, and just the idea.
Okay, that's a complex.
Like, that's how fucking big it is. So you got like the whole exit on the highway exists basically just for this. So I drive by it when I go home, and there's a light. There's just traffic every fucking morning just for the line of cars entering Raytheon. It's fucking crazy.
That sucks.
It's right next to the little blue square.
No, this.
Oh, that's the grotto.
Oh, we're not there yet.
Yeah, we're almost there. 1 second. And then the highway next to it is 93, which is an esoteric number involved with like it's like the Phoenix episode of Higher Side mentioned it. Involves like the time manipulation, like manipulating the time, like the time.
Are you talking about Raw? Oh my gosh, the Raw guy talking about Philadelphia?
No, he did a Phoenix. They did a Phoenix one like a month ago or 2 months ago, and they talked about they talked about like how Phoenix is like a portal site on the convergence of 4 rivers, and he mentions 93 as being a number involved with like manipulating time, like so like Mandela effect type shit.
Interesting.
It's long, so I'm trying to like kind of lay out threads for people to chase, like, you know what I mean? Because a lot of everything I'm saying, we could talk for 2 hours about each fucking about each thing. You know what I mean? So, but just keep an eye out.
We might come back to this again.
Exactly. Yeah,
unpack more.
I think that's basically good for Raytheon, for now, at least, right?
All right. So, well, what about, you had mentioned Antarctica somewhere in there? Oh
yeah, and then there's just the whole. They're in charge of like a lot of the Antarctica projects right now. Like they are the ones who are on Thule Island up by Greenland, by the Arctic. And like I don't know if they're the ones who control Thule Island by the Antarctic too. I don't know. But Claude did the whole Admiral Byrd connection with Raytheon and that group of Texas oil barons and everything back on that episode way back in the day. Remember?
Yeah.
So that's huge. Like, so they're in charge of Antarctica. They're led by the guy who created the nuke, who was at this ship disappearing at a portal, who was the head of this UFO group. It's, you know what I mean? It all connects. Named Radiant God. And then nobody talks about them. Like everyone talks about Lockheed and Boeing and everything, and I feel like nobody mentions Raytheon. Like, okay, that's good.
That's crazy. Yeah, I definitely have not thought about Raytheon until I started talking to you about all this mess of tangled wackiness. Okay, so the next thing was that grotto that we saw a little quick picture of. So what's up with the grotto?
So as I'm driving around, this one's like right on the river, like right on it. I see this woods. This is like right after I listened to the Mary Joyce episode, and I get a weird suspicious feeling about like, what the fuck is in this woods here? And then I use Google Earth for the first time in my life, and I see this, and I see this.
Like, what the fuck is that?
And this is in the woods, and like right over the tree line, like right at where the trees stop at the top. I had more pictures, but like my phone was short on space, so I ended up losing them, I guess. But this is a cemetery. But at the time, I didn't.
This is a cemetery.
That's a cemetery. So at the time,
I've never seen a cemetery laid out in a circle and all these little graves perfectly spaced. Just
that's what I'm fucking saying.
Circles. Like what?
It's crazy. Right on the river, and in the front of it is, or to the left of it is a reservation land or conservation land. To the right of it is this huge power lines I'm assuming everywhere has these. I feel like Eastern Mass is congested. It's just like this fucking shit everywhere. That might be more spread out for other places. So I don't want to like say something and assume people know what I'm talking about. But just like a giant power line complex that runs over the river is on one side of it, and then the back side of it is the river, and the front side of it is a Franciscan monastery, which was purchased by the Franciscans, the Order of St. Francis, in 1913. They bought 70 acres next to this river, and then put a monastery on it, which trained priests or had housed like 40 priests and 100 boys to become priests, like a priest school. So I saw this, I'm like, what the fuck is this? And then there are so many graveyards in New England because we're all Catholic. We take up a lot of space.
Yeah.
But I've never ever seen anything like this in a circle at all. So I'm like, what the fuck? So
I have a weird hobby of like I like to go to graveyards, especially old ones or small ones. And I have never seen a circular graveyard.
Yeah.
I've never even heard of it.
Me either. So I put the word out on there's a group on Facebook like Ancient, Esoteric, and Occult Knowledge.
Oh yeah.
So I dropped the line up to them. I'm like, what is this? What does it symbolize? Yeah. Somebody sent an image of something. I tried to find it, but I ran out of time. Called Solin Solar Ra. It's a Gnostic symbol of like concentric circles like this. That's used to commune with cosmic entities, supposedly. So
here we go. I got one. Oh wait, nope. Never mind. My bad. I'll try to find it and throw it up.
If I forget stuff, I can just post it in the comments afterwards. You know what I mean? Okay. Where to go to next? So I kind of found this around the similar period to when the Tracy Twyman episode came out, when she's talking on Fireside, when she's talking about the Mithras worship and how like they would do these like castration rituals of young boys and stuff. So
yeah,
and try to like trap these cosmic entities into like the bodies of like dead people and stuff. So so my idea is that maybe at something like this, if it's on some kind of hotspot or whatever next to this river, that they're putting the cemetery in the shape of this Gnostic shape to commune with other entities, to trap these entities into these dead bodies for whatever reason, because the demons want that, or because they're trying to trap them to get their power or whatever the fuck. But that was my thought about that.
Yeah.
And so I went there.
Oh shit.
And the next day, and then it's no trespassing. You can't get there. Like the building at the time was this huge. It's like a big school. It's like a fucking huge mansion. They tore it down last year and put up a retirement center. So instead of having a preschool, they tore it down and put up an old folks home. It's gonna have nobody ever exploring the woods ever. You know what I mean? but the cemetery and the grotto are still there. They have not moved.
So they can still use it for their purposes, but no.
If the goal is just to snatch it up and if the goal is just to control all these hotspots, then they still control this one with no fear of anyone ever finding it besides me.
Yeah.
So then I went there, and I think the next pictures will show me going there.
Oh, cool. Okay. Yeah.
Okay. So I see the graveyard, and then off to the side is a little path.
Can I just say really quick? I'm really glad you're still alive.
Right? It's all no trespassing signs, no trespassing. This place is camera monitored.
I mean, allegedly, someone went and got these pictures, but you would never trespass.
Oh yeah.
Right.
This is all a joke. Yeah, nothing I'm saying in the last hour is
this whole episode is just
yeah. This is work of fiction.
Totally.
So me or the character I'm playing walked in, saw this path, and like there's a cement path to like a private grave, and then there was a little like indent on this little like dirt path that kind of went down. So
there's one more thing I've never encountered is a little path to a private grave. But
yeah. And then leading down to another path. So this goes deep into the woods, kind of like this is probably like 5:30 in the morning, 6 in the morning at like summertime. So the sun kind of hits it like right behind the stone, like where Mary is in the grotto.
Wow.
And
it's beautiful.
I don't know if that's like a solar alignment. I haven't been able to vet that, obviously, but
could be.
But so I'm walking on this path, dirt path, and the woods open up to this fucking grotto. And then I think the next picture is just a closer view of it.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's a well. That little thing in the ground where these tiles are. That's a well. The river is very close. It's like the kind of trees that open up. You can almost see it. So I don't know why the fuck they need a well right there like that. Unless it's like
there's an interesting connection here with various ancient traditions that you would have a hole going down underground and there'd be some sort of water source there, and that would be a way to hear spirits as well. So there's like maybe one more communing with the other side.
Yeah, perfect. And that's what I'm thinking. And
crazy.
Next to it, there's no picture because like I was literally running around this place. Like I was trying not to be caught. So, but next to it, there's a path. There's like a little man-made pond. It's like a little circular, very small. It's like the size of like one of those little kid pools, or whatever. With like a bridge next to it. So like they made a pool, made a little bridge next to the pool, not over the pool per se. And then it leads off into a path like that goes deep into the woods. So there's 70 acres that overlooks the hook of the Merrimack. Like it's on they call it like the overlook.
That where the river shifts directions is a place of power as well.
And it's just a real Bohemian Grove feel. It just looks like this is the entry point of the ritual. Like, so the grotto is any kind of
people are gonna probably like think this is one more thing coming satanic or something. I'm totally not, I swear to God, but like I love Mary. She's associated with flowers, especially roses. So somebody's bought like fresh flowers here. And so part of me is like, this is just a beautiful place to go chill and relax. But with all the connections you're laying out, it's maybe not so much. But
I think like you have to have like an exoteric explanation to tell because there's still a nunnery next to it, the St. Clair nunnery, like which is the female order of the Franciscans.
Nice.
So they're still there. You have to explain it. You have to give them something. You have to explain it somehow. But I think like also in 1913 that like you can still once a month or on the equinoxes or solstices or whatever, bring up your 40 boys or whatever and take them into the woods, like baptize them in this man-made pool, walk them over this symbolic bridge over the waters, bring them out into the middle of the woods and have this Bohemian Grove type thing happen to them.
Take down your statue of Mary and throw up some fucking owls or whatever.
Yeah, especially seriously, especially with that fucking entities and like the whole in the Mythos episode of Christy Twyman, they're talking about like castrating these young boys and putting them into altered states and stuff with wine and drugs and stuff.
Yeah,
took him the same way with the marshland stuff, the same way the kid into altered states, and then the castration thing.
Use all that energy to connect the other side.
Exactly, and that's it's on a boys preschool. I mean, like Catholic preschool. Give me a fucking break.
Yeah, come
on. And interesting enough, so I did a little research on the Franciscans, and they're just a sect of Catholics. Their part of the thing is to like reject all material belongings or whatever. Yeah. But also just interesting, like Francis, you hear the whole like Henry Sinclair, like Sinclair Templars in America thing, where like so like his name was also like his middle name was Francis, or his real first name was Francis or whatever. And Francis was the name that's passed down as like to show that he's a Templar. It's like the Templar family name as like the leader of the Templars. And then the Templars were created in the 1100s, and the Franciscans were created in the 1100s. So in the Templars, when they disbanded, definitely invaded the Franciscans. I know, but like I'm not sure if at the formation of the Templars, the Franciscans was their public face.
Yeah, I remember hearing this before because when you mentioned I like St. Francis, the idea of it, like this guy who's super cool with animals and whatever. I want to like that, but I've heard this connection before too, that maybe they were just this front.
Yeah, I mean he could have been a. You're breaking up a little.
I'm sorry.
Am I frozen?
Yeah, you're good. Okay. No, keep going.
So my daughter's made like he could very well be a real person and be great or whatever, but then like just a group that was organized around him was just a group that they used. Like what better way to infiltrate different sacred spots if you have this group of monks that give up all material possessions, walking like going around to everywhere all over the world trying to convert them to Christianity and stuff, and snatching up all their sacred land and stuff. And then
true. Anytime we make something good, it's going to be
And then,
Co-opted.
and then Saint Clair. That name was if you look at like the etymology of like how that like that's like if that's a name, it becomes Sinclair.
Oh, right. St.
When they're
Clair,
brought,
St. Clair.
yeah, when they're brought to America. So is it a coincidence that the order is Francis and Saint Clair? Is that a coincidence? And that they're
No.
on this possible sacred spot? Like, is this? You know what I mean?
Dude, it's not even possible at this point. I mean, that is a sacred spot. Like there's no way you'd put this ancient Gnostic symbol or whatever you want to call that of communing with the dead right on this
Yeah,
river bend, right next to this grotto with Mary and like all of these.
crazy.
That's a sacred spot.
Yeah,
I'm gonna just say it.
yeah, and I think like the Mithras rock thing involves like Mithras was like killed or something, and then they took the semen, or like his mother took the semen, or Mithras took the semen, his semen, threw it on a rock, and then a new Mithras was born, and that's supposed to represent like a birthing of a new world or new universe, also called the Orphic egg, like Orpheus, and I think that symbology could be the basis, and then also could be like the primordial or panspermia of the rock that hit the planet and life came
Oh,
out.
right.
But I
Yeah.
also think that could be the foundation of the grotto concept of like the cave could be coming out of a rock. Like that could be the basis. I don't
Oh,
understand why Mary's associated with the rock at all. Like
yeah.
why? What the fuck has to do with her? She didn't went to a cave. Like you know what I mean?
If we're talking about ancient like sex rituals, then Mary actually is invoked in some of them to like I guess control the sexual energy so that it doesn't. I'm probably butchering this, but there's
Yeah.
some connection that I don't really understand that well. So that I don't know how well that connects.
To me, she just represents, at least in this thread, it's just the divine feminine, Columbia. You know what I mean? Like more than the mother of Jesus. It's just
Okay.
just the concept of it. You know?
Right.
Um.
That makes sense to me too.
Yeah, and so that's one site, and then
So there's something about her holding an orb.
oh yeah, I think
Is
that's
that in the picture?
that picture's on here. Yeah. So at the start of the actual cemetery, so that's the beginning of the cemetery when you walk in, and then if you go over to the right, so if you go to the center and go to the right, there's a path that will lead you to the private cemetery, and then that goes off to the right.
This looks like a flame here. What is that golden?
That's I think it's Jesus being resurrected, and then it
Wow.
says, I am the resurrection" on one side on a plaque, and then "I am the light" on another side on the
It's
plaque.
right in the center of all those circles.
It's right in the center. And the resurrection ritual is the Freddie Silva thing, which is a shamanic ritual that connects all the different ancient sites together. It's the art of the resurrection, that 3-day journey to the underworld and back.
You're right.
And then "I am the light" is the radiant God, shining God, Lucifer, knowledge, etc., etc. And also you see, like in this art of the resurrection ritual, when you go to the other world, you see shining deities, you see shining creatures. You know what I mean? So whether that's all connected, I don't know. It's just it's a coincidence, I think.
It's a lot of threads, yeah.
Big time. And then they bought the land. That's the "I am the resurrection." And there's another one. I don't think I posted it, but it says "I am the light." It's on the other side. And then it goes around, just does like the Stations of the Cross and shit all around.
I mean, all of this, like even it all connects to the sexual rituals too that you're talking about, and it just seems like this is a resurrection site.
I think that these shamanic journeys and stuff, that when the way Freddie Silva talks about it, he does it like in a really positive way, like a way like a really like to the benefit of humanity. But I think it also, the same way with anything, it can be co-opted and have bad effects too. And I think that's
exactly right. Like there's people talk about the White Lodge and the Black Lodge, the white magicians and the black magicians. So there's people who can do the resurrection ritual and whatever sexual energies and use it in a positive way, and there's people who can misuse it.
And then this is Mary holding the orb at the center. So if I'm standing, so the last picture when the two statues. So if I'm standing at the front and then I turn to the left, so she's standing right there. And off is like,
okay,
yeah. So if I'm standing there and turn to the left, that's where I'm at right there.
Okay.
And then
so what it looks like there's a plaque removed here. Do you know?
I don't. It does look like that, but I'm not sure.
Okay.
I'm not sure. I didn't notice that. But she's holding an orb. I don't know what it is. I know in like the Orphic religion, they have and in Christianity, they have something called the Ophanim, which are like The chariots were like Macabre, which are like the chariots of the angels,
Yeah.
as orbs sometimes, and then it's specifically four-wheeled chariots, and that the orb footage has four orbs. I'm not sure if that's connected at all.
Well, that her hands, the way she's holding them, and it's right in front of her heart chakra too.
Oh yeah, yeah.
That's like a stance that you can use to sort of focus your energy there. So that's interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, and then I was looking up like important Franciscans in history, and a lot of them were like during like the 15th century, or 14th century, and they were theologians that were like known for just chronicling the entities of the universe. Like that, they classified like the hierarchy of angels. Like, you know what I mean? So if any kind of angel lore of like cherubim and seraphim and stuff, like it was probably written down by a Franciscan.
Wow.
So I think that's interesting. But
yeah,
we could probably move on.
Whether for like good and like, oh, we're recording this information for posterity, or whether for like, let's control how people think of these things.
Exactly. Yeah. All I care about is they were into it. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So then we are going to tie into the bushes again, but this time the actual bushes.
Yeah, the real bushes. So the Bush family, or George H.W. and then George W. both went to Phillips Academy in Andover, which was the #1 prep school in the country. It was formed pretty much at the start of the nation. And then it's like they're known for secret societies. Like even if we just do a regular Wikipedia search or a regular like on the top 10 list of prep schools in the country, like on the main website, they'll even mention the fact that they were known for secret societies up until the 50s, and then they were like this, and then they were told to like cut it out pretty much. They're basically like a farm system, like a funnel into Skull and Bones and into like the Ivy League secret societies. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
so in Skull and Bones, you might be able to help me with this. The Bushes, they were like under the aliases of like Gog and Magog, or they were both Magog or whatever.
Yeah, and I get confused every time we talk about this. I think Senior was Magog and Junior is Gog.
That makes sense.
I think Magog is the bigger one, the badder one. Anyway.
Is it?
Magog is dead.
And then Andover, so the town it's in, Andover, very rich town or whatever.
Sorry, the town that what's in?
Phillips Academy is Andover.
Okay. So this
like
is
a lot of the shit's
school.
Yeah, so all the shit's going on. A lot of this is going on in Andover. The marshland was in Drake. This is in Andover. The two Raytheons are like on the Andover-Tewksbury line.
Okay.
And then we go over to Lawrence. So it's Lowell, or like Drake Lowell. So on that map, when it goes like Lowell to Lawrence, in between it's like Lowell, Lawrence, Tewksbury, Drake, Andover. You know what I mean?
Okay.
North Andover, where those explosions were and shit. So they're sister towns. Andover is named after Andover, Hampshire in England, and then their sister towns are a town called Redon, which is on in France, which is on two rivers, and Gok in Germany. So the sister towns are France, or in France and in Germany, which are two big time occult. If I was to say what are the two most occultic nations in the fucking world, I'd say France and Germany, probably.
Yeah.
And that's the two sister towns. And then the pronunciation, or the way it's Gok is pronounced in like every other language besides German, I think, is Gog.
Oh, weird.
So the town is a sister town. One of four sister towns is named Gog, and that's also on two rivers.
Crazy.
Yeah, so that's just a weird thing. That's basically that for that. Just like they came to, and then George Washington did this tour up the East Coast right after the Revolution, and he stopped at Phillips Academy, and he was super fucking impressed by it. Similar to like when Michael Wan talks about the Queen coming to Susquehanna, it's kind of like that. He did a tour when he stopped at this place.
So George Washington is there. It's like the secret society god. There's the image on the top of the Capitol Rotunda where it's literally called the apotheosis of George Washington. So he's like their god. He comes to your little prep school where the Bushes go, and he says he's impressed by it. Like that's
he fucking loves it. He sends his nephews there. His nephews go there, and then like John Hancock signed their charter or something, or their fucking decree or whatever, whatever important document you would have hanging up in your hall. Yeah, he signed that.
Yeah.
And then Paul Revere designed their logo.
What? Okay.
Like their sister school in Exeter a fucking shitload of presidents, and Zuckerberg went there.
Zuckerberg
And,
went there. Okay.
yeah, all kinds of stuff. Everyone. Uh, I think the DuPonts maybe went there, or a DuPont, the Irene DuPont might have went there.
Wow. So this,
So
okay, say the school's name again one more time.
Phillips
Academy.
Phillips Academy,
Okay.
Andover, also known as Andover Academy sometimes, but it's the
Okay.
#1 prep school. You might see it called the #2 prep school. That's just because Phillips Exeter is the other one.
Okay.
Like the other one's it's just a school that's like 30 miles away up in New Hampshire.
Okay.
Along the same ley line, though, I think.
Wow.
So that's basically it. So the #1 prep school in the country is also in this town, where both Bushes went, called themselves Gog, and in a sister town of a place named Gog in Germany.
Fucking crazy.
Interesting, yeah.
All right. So you said there was something about some museums and archaeology there.
There's a private art museum and a private archaeological museum, like the only one in the region. So when I was really getting deep into all this shit, I wanted to go to it, check everything out, because like all the idea that like the Smithsonian and these museums and shit are hiding all these sacred artifacts and everything, or giant bones and all kinds of shit. So I want to go check it out, and I can't find any way to get there. Like there's no buy tickets, there's nothing. It's just the only museum around for remnants of ancient shit that it's behind their walls, and they don't let anybody in there.
That's fucked.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
people into a museum. How is it even a museum if people can't go to it?
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Anyway.
It's fucking crazy.
Yeah. I would love to know what's in there.
Yeah. It's big too. It's weird. It's like a sprawling campus that goes all over like a whole section of Andover, which is like a really, really rich, wealthy town. Very rich.
Man, I want to go to Andover someday. I mean, you're sharing it with me enough that all right. So then it seems like there is another grotto.
Yeah.
That comes into this whole thing.
There was a turtle, like so in Andover, in somebody's backyard, they found a turtle chamber, like a turtle stone chamber, which was like the same way with the pyramids, like the Freddie Silver thing, where all the pyramids and all these burial mounds and these sacred sites are all like meditation chambers to like have these shamanic journeys and stuff. Most of them, like every sacred site you'll see in New England has a turtle chamber on it, and then the person who found it converted it into a Mary grotto, such as an example of like taking a literal, same way with the Passaconaway Varnum thing, of taking these sacred chambers and repurposing them just under a different prism. You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally. So when you say turtle chamber, like what is it in the shape of a turtle? Is this?
So it's just that's North America Stonehenge. That's just I don't have a picture of it because it's like in somebody's it's in somebody's backyard and you can't get there.
Oh, gotcha. So these underground chambers are back at them other Mary.
This is America Stonehenge.
Oh, this is.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. We'll go on to that in a minute. Or
do you want to we can just go on to the next one. Okay. But yeah, for the next one. So is the next thing America Stonehenge?
There's a picture of.
Okay.
Oh, well, the next thing we were going to talk about was actually, I don't know. Do you want to talk more about the turtle thing? Sorry, I totally hijacked you.
So a lot of the belief systems of the Native Americans from this region, like the Pennicooks and stuff, like Passaconaway, their origin myth is that the world was built on the back of a turtle, like the spirit, the great spirit threw mud on the back of a turtle, and then the world popped up. And that's very similar to the Mithras thing, where she threw cum on the rock and the world grew, or an Egypt myth where they threw mud on something else and the fucking world grew. And also similar to like Atlas, the idea of like carrying the world on your back, which Tracy Twyman connected to the whole Mithras thing too, as well. Like Atlas Shrugged, that whole thing. And there's also the Westford Knight is like a Templar artifact that's like the town over from Dracut. So it's just along this line, like it's like 15 minutes away from me, but it's just a remnant. It's just a remnant of a Templar journey in this region. So like,
what is it actually?
It's like a burial. It's supposed to be like a Templar knight is buried.
Oh, it's a burial site for him.
It's supposed to mark. It's like a stone. It's supposed to like mark the spot of like a Templar knight, and it's like right on this path that like. Yeah.
I
So
just, yeah. How many Templar Knight burial grounds do you find anyway? And then to
yeah,
have it be
yeah,
connected with all of this stuff is.
yeah. And there was an
We already
episode.
had the Templar connection with the CC stuff, so that's
Exactly, yeah. And there's an episode of Mysterious Universe where they talk about the Templars coming over to America. Like it's the whole when I kind of like really got into the Sinclair shit was through Mysterious Universe, and they were talking about how they went to Ethiopia and got the Ark of the Covenant and brought it over. It's the whole Oak Island conspiracy.
Yeah.
But this one particular researcher that the Mysterious Universe was covering linked it to quote unquote they put it or came to and buried it or whatever at a river north of Boston. Like they linked it to the Saugus River, which is a little bit closer to Boston, but it's Merrimack River, goes to the Concord River, goes to the Saugus River. So, I mean,
wow.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
So we should get Ben and Aaron to look into this too and see, or I don't know.
So,
I love that.
Yeah, for real. So, so in between that spot and then the spot we're talking about right now is the only Templar burial site that I know about. And
say that part again. You cut out a little.
So like, sorry if you're freezing a lot. Am I freezing a lot to you?
Nope. Just now was the first time.
Okay. So like in between this whole Merrimack thing we're talking about, and then the spot that they say the Ark of the Covenant was brought by Henry Sinclair at the Saugus River. It's like probably like a 15-mile range, and right in the middle of it is the Westford Knight, Templar Knight, to pretty much prove that they did make that journey.
Wow.
You know what I mean? Just interesting.
Whoa. That is fascinating. Okay, so yeah, I mean that I would love to see how that connects with all of that. I bet you have closer to the right place that other person on Mysterious Universe, where the Ark of the Covenant is hidden. About Andover's past that could make it an important location, because it seems like you found a lot of other connections too besides the Templar thing.
Yeah, I mean, and they like the Merrimack connects to the Atlantic, so they could have came in through we'll get to it, but I think rivers are portals. So I think they went probably some other way. But like even just like the traditional idea of just actually sailing around these rivers, like
that works too.
It works too. That's how you get there. You go through the Merrimack down to the Concord, down to the Saugus, and the Concord has their own Lockheed Martins and Raytheons on it. Like it's fucking crazy. And then it's an Andover. So we're just gonna get to talk about a few quick Andover bullet points, basically, right?
Yeah. You have all these interesting things about Andover's past, like the Algonquin phrase.
Yeah, it's an Algonquin phrase called means the place of the Great Cascade. So, in a lot of different mythology, they talk about the magical waters running over the planet. So I don't know if that's the same, like from either whether it be like another planet with life, or like the throne of God, or like Eden, or whatever. Just the idea of these waters flowing from whatever the other side to the earth. So I don't know if that's the Great Cascade they're talking about, but it could be.
Yeah.
And it's so that's the Algonquin meaning of the word, but there's also a European meaning of the word, which is interesting. And it means tree water.
Huh.
Which the water that comes from the tree, is that the tree of life, that the waters, the fluids that flow from the tree of life into those pots and shit. Like, you know what I mean? With those pot belly pots and stuff kind of flow down. Like, is that this river portals we're gonna be talking about? Is that
the tree of life connects directly to that sort of alchemical sexual resurrection ritual, so that's interesting too.
Yeah. And I think like it kind of helps to explain the vortex idea that we're going to be getting to where there's these natural like vortexes all over the planet, and they kind of like work in a similar way.
Mm-hmm.
But it's interesting that there's a European name and a Native American name for it. Same with the Merrimack, which is a English word and also a Native American word. Like one uses a K at the end, one uses a C at the end. How the fuck is that possible?
Yeah, it's very, very unlikely that two languages would have the same word and they would both have significant meanings.
Yeah, and I think it's Vedic too, but I haven't been able to like back that up well enough. But I believe Mary Sutherland is the researcher who's doing a kind of similar thing, but in Milwaukee, tying like the giants to ley lines, all kinds of shit. And she made the connection between like European, Vedic, and Native American words all having root meanings together.
Wow. Vedic is the farthest back
Yeah,
Go
exactly.
to.
Yeah,
Interesting.
yeah. Uh, it's been around for a long time, since not like 955. There was a lodge there from the king's personal lodge was there. The first meeting in Andover, like in Massachusetts.
So that
Huh?
in
The
19,
European Andover, the European
you're
Andover. Huh?
you're not saying 962. Oh, the European Andover. Okay, got
962.
you. I
The
got you.
European
Yeah, yeah,
one.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Like the
Way
root
back.
of
Okay.
like what
The
is like
word.
where the name comes from. Yeah.
Yeah.
But then Andover, Mass.
Okay.
The first town meeting was at John Osgood's house. And Osgood Street is what borders Raytheon in that picture. Like
Huh.
it's borders it the whole way. Um,
Set the intention for the whole town.
yeah, basically. I mean, yeah. I mean the one. Yeah. He had a bunch of influential people that keep popping up at that meeting, like the Abbotts and the Putnams and all kinds of stuff. They were all at this meeting. It's kind of like who.
Sorry. So we're gonna harp on the Putnams again, but
Oh, we're gonna get deep in
who
the
are the
Putnams.
Abbotts?
We're gonna get deep in
Yeah.
the Putnams. Yeah. The
We don't mean
Abbotts.
to attack the Putnams on this show. It just
Yeah,
happens.
at this point, it's funny. The Abbotts were just a higher family like this who probably at the first meeting, and then Benjamin Abbott, he accused the first woman to be killed during the Salem witch trials,
Whoa.
or the Andover witch version of the Salem witch trials. Like Andover was a huge town that actually borders Salem. So Andover and Salem are side by side because at the time period they were just huge fucking towns. And they were the most witches killed during the witch trials were from Andover, and the most witches who confessed to witchcraft were from Andover.
So, and that's where they sent, that's where they were kind of getting their final word, even down in Salem and their witch trials too.
Yeah.
So they were like deferring to Andover.
The Salem girls, which is like the Putnam girl, they would go around to all the possible witches, and they'd be like, pretty much go like yes or no, like witch or no, and always yes,
yeah.
pretty much. And then crazy Putnam girl, yeah, and Putnam Jr. I think. So Benjamin Abbott accused the first woman, Martha Carrier, and like a few episodes ago, Greg asked his guest if he wanted if there was any other ritual aspects to like the Salem witch trials, if there's any deeper meaning behind it, possibly
on the higher side.
So, yeah. So not only do I think that that's because it's all in a sacred spot, this Andover ley line spot. The first person accused was Martha Carrier, and her husband, Thomas Morgan or Thomas Carrier, was 7'3", lived 150 fucking years or 135 years or something like that, and came from England where he was integral. He might have possibly swung the axe in the assassination or the execution of King Charles to start the British fucking Revolution.
What? Okay, so we have another giant of long life that is connecting here. Like that's tripping me out.
So they killed him at this King Charles to create this like 100-year revolution until his son took over again, like fighting for like whatever there was. I don't know a ton about it, but like it's a big deal at the time, obviously. And they killed him at this like it looks pretty sacred. It's like there's a bunch of like markings on the ground. It looks like Washington D.C. type thing. It looks like it's definitely a sacred spot that they killed. Like it was a ritual killing of the king of the country to start a new country. And the person who did it, who possibly swung the fucking axe, fled the country because he was the only person who wasn't spared by the next king.
Yeah.
And then married the first woman accused in the witch trials.
And she's a giant of long life. And what a convenient way to get rid of a bunch of people whose story you don't really want people to know, or whose power you don't want to affect other people, whatever. It's just like accuse them all of witches.
Yeah.
Their property.
And what if, and I think there's just on this, we'll get into it in a little bit, but or probably pretty soon, that there's a grid system. There's this natural ley line portal grid system that can be charged. That's like all these rituals, every like pretty much terrorist attack and like killing or major event are like used in order to charge this grid system in some way. So it's all blood related. So what way to like it completely links the two events, the start of the new nation. You know what I mean? Like it's like and then later on we had the
Sorry, I'm just tripping that it's like this location could be this like place where you have these rituals that are resurrection and rebirth, have some sort of
Mm.
mass killing or other purposes too. Like if it's an energetic portal that you can act on one way to slice it.
Yeah, yeah. I think like it's. I mean, I think it's really a big web, like, and it's all linked together, and it needs blood, like it needs to be charged. And I think their goal is, so I think these portals open up naturally. It's like an intergalactic highway system, that this global maritime civilization did not sail across the country. They popped in from portal to portal, and that's why there's remnants. Like we'll get to America Stonehenge, for instance. Why they don't know if it's the Israelites, the Phoenicians, the Celtics, the Egyptians, the Vikings. They don't know who was there because there's evidence of all of them.
Yeah.
It's because they were all there, and that there was this secret knowledge that was passed around is this knowledge of this grid system, the schedule, why these important things are all happening at synchronistic times, is because there's like it's like a flight schedule, and it goes off planet and throughout the planet. Even if you believe the Earth is flat and you can't go to space, this still works. This is how you get off the planet. This is how.
Right.
You know what I mean? And then this is what caused the breakaway civilization, is this knowledge. If you are able to get to China 1,000 years before everyone else on the planet, it's a huge fucking deal.
Yeah.
Or if you want to get, or if you're going to Saturn or wherever, or the Pleiades, you know what I mean? Like that's a big deal. You know what I mean?
So I think if you got UFOs coming and going, like this would be how they would use the system as well.
Exactly. So I think it's a natural system. And then what the elites are doing is trying to co-opt it, open up their own, open up when they're not supposed to be opened. And then in order to bring forth these titans or Leviathan or these like fallen gods that they worship and bring them back, like open the abyss that you hear about all the time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then that's what these rituals are for on like, so Crowley and all these people trying to open these portals and everything, like on the locations, it's tried to like co-opt the natural system. It'd be a lot easier if you can pop in and out whenever you want to than having to fly over to Egypt to hop in, or you know what I mean, or fly over to Yellowstone to get in their portal. You know what I mean? Like it's easier if you can just call. So I think when they talk about Mars and everything, we can get into that hopefully later. But for like being like people think that they like fry themselves with nukes and shit. There's like a nuclear war.
Some people believe that it was once populated and then they perhaps like destroyed themselves. Yeah.
I think tying to the nuke portal connection, I think that their elites did the same thing, and tried to mess with their grid system and fried their fucking grid, and that's what it looks like. You know what I mean? Like,
dude, and you can imagine, like, if you're gonna fry a grid like that, like you're saying, it'd be the same as if you fried your kind of like your own energetic parts of your body, like your whole body dies.
It's like your computer.
I can see what you're saying. Yeah,
if you crash your computer, if one Christmas light goes out, they all go out. You know what I mean? Like and it affects the weather, like it affects everything. I mean, and that's it's tied to the sun. Like it's all that's what it would look like if that was to happen. Like the idea that CERN's gonna fucking blow us all up and kind of that kind of stuff. Like their CERN, Mars' CERN, that's what it might have looked like. You know what I mean? So like that's just kind of a link between those two. You bring me back though. I don't know where we were before I.
Well, you're it's really, really fun to talk about. And it makes me think when you're talking about the abyss, opening the abyss, and they're trying to kind of do this unnaturally. There's this idea that if you're kind of doing the black magic method of resurrection, you end up in the fifth, or is it the sixth, maybe? I don't know. I'm not an expert of the stuff, but you end up in a dimension where you're going to slowly run out of your own energy and die. And so you try to fuck with this dimension to get our energy from like sadness, anger, hate, these things. But they're stuck there, and that's the abyss. They're stuck in the abyss. Like they did it wrong. They tried to ascend to a higher level. They did it wrong. There are natural consequences that they're in this dimension. It's still a higher dimension. They still like achieve that, but they're kind of fucked there. And that's part of why they always are fucking with us. And I wonder if that's like whoever it is that maybe got stuck there, that's who these people are trying to free, you know, more than like gods or whatever. Same kind of idea.
It's definitely possible. During the Mythos episode, Tracy Tron was talking about how it's supposed to be Kronos was overthrown by like the older pantheon, like the Titans were overthrown by the Olympians, and that same idea like persists throughout many different pantheons. That there's an older pantheon of gods that were overthrown and buried underneath our feet.
Yeah.
And that in this like metaphysical prison where they can't bust out of it. You know what I mean? And like
same kind of idea. Yeah.
they need these gates to open. And that's like the big that's the falling of, that's the collapsing of the pillars. That's what it represents, is this collapsing of the pillars that hold up these worlds, these realms that are connected. And that's
they can go fuck themselves.
Yeah.
I hope they die there.
Yeah. And then also like it's on a smaller level too, just bring forth like the idea of like there's two worlds, the seen and the unseen. The unseen has unlimited knowledge but can't manipulate anything in the physical world, can't do shit, and we don't know shit that can affect reality. So there's a constant like they're trying to like what the elites could be doing is gaining power by letting these things in somehow.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
And right, totally. And there's a back and forth, like you're saying. There's like middlemen who deal with these other realm entities. They're getting something out of it, but those entities are getting shit out of it too. And I would bet money that they're not. We always hear this of like the deceiver and the
Yeah.
I mean, they're not going to give you everything that you need to overthrow them or to like work without them. They're tricky bitches.
Tracy says that Tracy says that the idea being that like this is happening all the time with like the individual demons and shit coming in, but like the selling your soul type thing. But like the idea of the final collapse is that this like the New Jerusalem comes down and it's like depicted as like a castle or like a cube. Or it's called the New Jerusalem. It comes and it takes up all the good people and everyone else, like as the columns collapse and everyone else is fucking destroyed or whatever. And then below these pillar, like below this New Jerusalem is like the four rivers that come from the four rivers of Eden. So it's supposed to be Eden returning or whatever. But when this happens, everyone else is fucked. Like, so she thinks that they convince people to do this by saying, you're gonna spend eternity in hell by helping us do this. But if you help us do this, you'll never fucking die. So it doesn't even matter.
Yeah, that is exactly what they think.
Yeah,
they can escape the whatever you want to call that, hell or the karmic balance or whatever.
Any consequences, like
right?
Yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah, no.
And then just like I've been thinking about this. No, they're not at all. And I've been thinking about this for like over a year now. And just like so, I call Clyde Lewis on Ground Zero all the fucking time. And it really just like it's tough to like throw it all in this one conversation and make it seem like it susses out. But like it's really
we need this entire like 2-hour interview in order to even start to piece it together.
Yeah, but it holds up. Like all these events, like any kind of like natural disaster, the fires in California, like fucking everything. They all are on these sites of like they're
trying to like sacred. Clear out some of those sites so that they can reuse them again or something, or they're trying to protect those sites from people finding them or going there en masse.
Yeah. So I think the idea is just if it's just like this. Picture like acupuncture needles all over the human body,
right?
Like the most you've ever seen, like fucking hundreds, thousands. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Those translate for that to the earth body, and I think all those spots also exist. Like the 7 chakras will probably be like Jerusalem, and Egypt, and Rome, and Washington D.C. and shit. But there are also thousands all in our backyards, and those were these fucking spots open up or whatever, and they have the schedule that say. You want to go to fucking Kansas at 11:11 on Tuesday and blah, 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 because that's a portal that will go to fucking Mars or whatever. You know what I mean? Or that's the portal that'll take me to Japan so I can get to Mars. You know what I mean? It's like it's like a plane schedule. It's like an intergalactic highway, intergalactic like airport. It's like so if you control all these spots and you just go to them when it's time. You know what I mean? So I think that's what happened with Sunspot. The whole Sunspot thing when like they shut down that whole observatory or whatever.
Oh, right. And, not that long ago, too.
I think that's just an example of like a place that they have. They knew this portal was opening, shut it down. Somebody spotted something coming out of the sun. The town is called fucking Sunspot. These portal things are linked with the sun. That's like
they're all linked.
We'll probably get into that, but the sun is like how it works, I think. And maybe the portals go to the sun, and then you leave the solar system. Probably is how it works.
Well, the sun has often been in many different people's theories of what the fuck is going on in this crazy universe. The sun often is a portal. You know, and we've seen all of this like footage of shit that seems to be coming in and out of the sun. And they're like, the size of these things would be insane. Like they're like planet-sized ships.
Yeah, bigger than Jupiter. Yeah, it's fucking crazy. And like the black hole sun, and just like the idea of just and Tracy and Crow talk about the importance of the solstice sunlight, and how like it literally they talk about. I wasn't able to re-listen to that one, so it's been a while since I heard that episode. But essentially, they're talking about this the light of the solstice sun or the equinox sun having this like portal property, having this like, and that could explain like why all these ancient sites all around the country or world venerate the sun so much beyond just like a calendar. It could be because they want to harness this mystical sunlight. You know what I mean?
I remember, and I don't remember the details either, but there was a Crow, one of the episodes back a while when you and I were first starting to talk about this stuff, that he was talking about the Silver Gate and the Golden Gate. Exactly. So like, I believe the winter solstice is the Silver Gate and the summer time of Mass.
Yeah.
Portal opening or something. Yeah.
No, I think that's totally right. And that's why, we can get into American Stonehenge, like why all these places are aligned to them.
Let's do it. Do you want me to show the pictures of the American Stonehenge that you have?
Yes.
You can walk us through it? Okay. All right, so we've got this sideways you are here sign.
Okay.
Or do you want to go back?
Yeah, go back maybe. Yeah. To that one. Yeah, go back. Okay, that's fine. Yeah, okay, that was a good one. So each one of those lines and that you are here sign, the picture you just showed, is this. It's like a strip. It's like a strip cut out of there's like a central chamber, which is those like stone chambers and tunnels and stuff, and there's like an altar space. But each one of those lines is the thing you just saw. So that rock with the strip at the end of it. So that is one line on that. And those lines are the alignments. And they're star alignments, they're lunar alignments, they're solar alignments. And they mark the
pictures you took are one of those alignments.
So this is just there's like a main chamber, like the main place where like they call it like the sacrificial chamber and shit. And just where everything kind of went on. And then there's like, then that's where all the alignments merge, is at these chambers. And that's like the mound or the pyramid or the where they go to have the shamanic journey, the art of the resurrection ritual.
Okay.
And that's where all the alignments come together or whatever. And then the alignments, the solar alignments, star alignments, lunar alignments, and then the quarter days or whatever are that white you are here picture. And then so when you go to American Stonehenge, you watch this video. It's a 5-minute video that's just running on a loop when you first come in. Yeah. And it talks about all the alignments and how I'll try to break it down a little bit, but it's supposedly about at least like 4,400 years old, American Stonehenge. They carbon dated it and got that time, and then the alignments matched the sky at least 4,400 years ago.
Okay.
So, but there's evidence of the Celtics, there's evidence of the Romans, the Vikings, the Phoenicians, et cetera, and I think it's because it's like a port. It's a portal spot, so they all have access to it.
Yeah.
And then it's not impressive like a real Stonehenge where it's like these this is a good one. Where it's like it's not like gigantic megatons, like megaliths or whatever. It's more just the archaeoastronomy that's the impressive part about it.
Yeah.
So this picture here, inside the blue picture is the screen, the video that talks about the alignments. And he says like a few years ago, his son, Dennis Stone is like the owner of it. And his son was messing around with the alignments, like messing around with Google Earth, and like stretched out the alignments on the different days that are on that map.
Yeah.
And the summer solstice sunset goes from American Stonehenge across the Atlantic and right through the center of Stonehenge, the real Stonehenge, on the summer solstice. That's what that blue map is. Right through the arches or whatever.
Wow.
Like right through. And then on the summer solstice sunset, it does the same thing to Teotihuacan in Mexico City.
So sunrise at Stonehenge, sunset at Teotihuacan.
Exactly, yeah. So,
wow.
And then this map here is just the one with my finger pointing to it. Those stars I put there so you can see, but it's just a map they had hanging on the wall of a bunch of tacks. And those are all mysterious, unknown archaeological finds along the East Coast. And to me, that's kind of a line to me.
Yeah. It was
um,
like a
yeah, yep. So we have this summer solstice alignment that connects the real Stonehenge to Stonehenge and Teotihuacan. So basically, on the solstice, if you take that whole line, it connects Teotihuacan right through fucking Stonehenge, which is pretty cool on the summer solstice. And
wow.
then it just so happens that the Missouri River Valley, so New Orleans, Washington D.C., Philadelphia, New York, Boston, Maine, Nova Scotia, New Brunswick, which are known for their ancient sites, are all along this line called the Arcadia line.
Arcadia line.
That's like one ley line map had it as the Arcadia line. The only one that I saw that had it on there. So they didn't mention this at America's Stonehenge. This is my own like. This is the
Is that
map they
this?
had. This is the map they had on the wall. It's as big as me.
Oh,
And then they just drew all over it and put pictures. Like all those pictures are just different archaeological findings. And then the writing are all their hypothetical trade routes of like say the Sinclairs and the Vikings, et cetera, where they would have went or whatever. But then I asked like the Dennis Stone wasn't there the day like
yeah.
the second day that I went, so I asked like his daughter or whatever. I'm
Mhm.
like, is it just me or are these like I point out the alignment how it creates this line through all the fucking major cities on the East Coast
Yeah.
connecting Teotihuacan with Stonehenge. I'm like, that's not just me, right? That's really happening. She's
Yeah.
like, oh yeah, true. And it's like, okay, yeah, that's like kind of a big deal. Like you're not told that every major city aligns with the fucking two. Like that's a big deal, right?
Some
Like,
people have eyes to see.
yeah, I don't know. And then so where are we at now before I skip too far ahead?
Well, so it seems like this American Stonehenge is definitely on a line that does connect. It's not
Oh,
just that, it's not like he just drew a line to connect it to Stonehenge and Teotihuacan. It's like that on a specific day of the year, which we know is sacred and important, the
yeah,
summer solstice. Like that's
yeah,
pretty intense
exactly.
stuff.
And
Um,
it's the lunar alignments apparently I just found out recently aren't
yeah.
very common. Like the fact that it has these star alignments, solar alignments, and lunar alignments, and these quarter days like May 1st and November 1st and shit. These days that aren't on these solar days or like in between the solar days, which are important in different cultures. They're all representative at America's Stonehenge, and a lot of people
Wow.
say that like the Celtics are really present there, and that they went to there first, and then traveled via river into the center of the country, into like Colorado and Kansas and Missouri and stuff. So from America's Stonehenge via river to the rest of the fucking country.
Via river,
And
you're putting in quotation marks
via river in quotes, yeah.
because you know that it was maybe some
Yeah,
other way.
maybe something else.
So connected with rivers, though. So then you also have this idea of there's some symbology that connects with that idea as well, right?
There's a lot of serpent walls. So like around the center of it is this main serpent wall. It's like the I forget the name of the thing that the serpent eating his tail.
Oh,
But
Roberus.
yes, and it like kind of rises in and out of the ground. It like makes like the back of a snake. You know what I mean?
Oh, wow.
As it goes around.
Kind of like the way you would imagine an old sea serpent painted in a
Yeah, like a
map.
lot.
Like,
That's exactly 100%.
yeah.
Yeah. And around like the main place where all the alignments come out of it, and then there's kind of just different serpent walls they call them all around the region, and then all around kind of New England in general. And in my opinion, the serpent symbology ties to like serpent energy and like earth
Yeah.
energies and like ley line energies. So if you look at like the Serpent Mound in Ohio, which is like probably the most famous like mound in America, is it's pretty much just this giant raised serpent that's supposed to represent this ley line energy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
think that's present at America's Stonehenge too. I forgot to mention earlier that Varnum moved to Ohio. The one who founded this, James, who founded the society in Cincinnati. He
Yeah.
he started the first after the Revolution. Immediately after the Revolution, the Washington granted Putnam and a group of elites from Massachusetts to go to Marietta, Ohio, which is where the Great Mound of Ohio is on the convergence of two rivers. There's like the fucking biggest mound, like the Mound of Ohio,
Yeah.
is where they went to. So Hester Conaway got this land. I mean, Varnum got
Farm.
this land from a giant, and then settled at a place known for giants at the giant spot. You know what I mean? Like
on a river.
On a fucking where two rivers meet each other.
Like, with a Putnam.
Yeah, with a Putnam. Exactly.
Okay.
Led by a Putnam. Yeah.
Jesus, you can't fucking make this shit up.
The Putnam thing I found today when I was like just keep taking the notes. I didn't realize that was the case.
That's interesting.
Fucking crazy. The Putnams are everywhere. Where are we at now?
Well, okay, so I mean that kind of covers like the whole.
And
historical. Sorry, go ahead.
Is there a picture on the air of like a ship with a flag? Like
we've got a map with a lot of big black.
Oh, never mind. I'm farther down on my notes than those. Never mind.
Okay, do you want to look at some of these pictures and tell us what they're about?
What's the next one? Yeah.
And then we'll see where that takes us.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we're going to go into pop culture in a little bit, but.
Oh, this is the rivers as portals thing. Okay, yeah. This is the important part. This is the part
like the crux of it. Yeah.
This is the one. This is the thing that brings everything together. Okay. Obviously, so I've been alluding to it, but I haven't really broken it down. So, I think rivers are portals. I've been noticing it like fucking crazy. Every kind of event, like if any kind of paranormal event, if they were to give a description of the land that it happens at, there's gonna be a river there.
Yep.
And most of the time they don't. People don't look for it. And then Michael Wan has a Susquehanna alchemy thing that came out in the same time period. So I think he is like, I don't know shit about magic, but he actually is able to like break down how the actual like portal openings and like the mechanisms could actually work, how the ritual magic could actually work on the river.
Michael Wan, yeah.
Yeah. And then my kind of like broad strokes idea is just that. So I'm trying to look for ley line maps after I found this connection of the summer solstice as America's Stonehenge. And it's really not great online. Like this is a kind of an untapped field where like people don't know what the fuck they're talking about.
Yeah. There's a lot of ideas about ley lines, but it's not like somebody's mapped out the ley lines.
Exactly. Yeah. This is what we should be doing. But a lot of it right now is just like it's just drawing lines from mountain to mountain, which like it could work like that, but I don't think it does. And then so when I'm looking around, I find this one video from like 2013. It has like 400 fucking views on it. So about like the Delta grid matrix system where this guy, I watched a few of his videos that are fucking real weird. But then he just like kind of stumbled upon it. He really doesn't know like what he found. I don't think, in my opinion, he's not talking about it in the same context I'm talking about it. But if
you guys hooked up, I've
emailed him several times, but I don't know if he's active anymore. Like this is from a long time ago. So if you go to the picture from before, he took the drawing with the circles. Yep. So he took the prime meridian, the ecliptic, the path of the sun, and then the major delta systems, which are these circled brown dots or whatever, where like the water meets the rivers meet the ocean. That's like the 7 or 8 major delta systems of the planet. Right. And create on Google Earth and created this grid system and then on this grid system, pretty much is every ancient site you can think of exists on the system. So if you go to the next picture. So this is
like there's your line.
This is me. Yeah. So he didn't mention this line in the video. He's talking about more about like South America, and he's looking for the Axis Mundi. That's his goal. He wants to know like where the Axis Mundi is. That's what his whole thing is.
Like
so he was
of life too.
Yeah. So he was over in like Jordan, like talking about like looking at the Axis Mundi in Jordan, where like 6 of the lines connected with each other.
Yeah.
But I paused it on this spot just because that's what I'm looking for, and this is a line that's created by
Teotihuacan exactly. Here, right? Yeah, here would be your little cluster of fuckery, and then over here would be
SDC right there with those 2 lines merge.
Oh,
that's
shit.
SDC, and I'm a little bit farther up, and then I'm a little farther up.
Oh, okay, over here.
Yeah, right there. That's still that same line, and then
it goes over to Stonehenge.
And it goes over to fucking Stonehenge, and I think it goes down to like some crazy shit over in Europe too, but I just don't know that for sure.
Because this would be a cool Google Earth setup to let people download and play with.
Yeah, I tried to email him multiple times for it. I tried to find him on Facebook. I did it on YouTube.
So this is a shout out to everybody listening. If you can get the global Delta grid matrix guy's information and contact him, get him in touch with us, that would be so rad.
Yes, I'll post a video in the comments of this and everything. Or in Eyes Open. But so when I say like rivers are important, or like rivers are like maybe portals, whatever, people are just going to roll their eyes and say, obviously rivers are important because you need them to survive.
Yeah.
They're the cradle of civilization. That's
There's
why.
the exoteric explanation.
Exactly. But you can't, the fact that these rivers on the planet are physically connected with each other. This is a line that showed me the Arcadia line.
Arcadian ley line. Okay.
The Arcadian ley, I think.
Yeah.
This is a guy who talked about the Templar meridians. It's pretty recent, I think, or like a few years old, where he tried to figure out like this Templar grid system, which I think is along a similar line. But
I just want this on my wall. That's just a beautiful piece of art. Right? It's so cool.
Yeah, seriously. But the idea that like the river systems are physically linked on the planet, like humans didn't do that. That's not something they were like. They didn't just dig a river. You know what I mean, this exists on the planet. And then TFT, and then real quick, if we could, the Mars connection, you hear like the face on Mars and Cydonia and all the pyramids on Mars and everything.
Yeah.
Richard Hoagland found out that those exist on the 19.5 parallel of Mars, and that every like the red spot of Jupiter is at 19.5, the spot on Neptune is at 19.5. And that because that's a pyramid, if you put a pyramid into a sphere where the points are, is 19.5, like up and down. And Teotihuacan is on 19.5. And then Avebury, which is like Stonehenge in England, is what Cydonia. It matches Cydonia. So, and it's on the prime meridian of Mars. So on the prime meridian of Mars is this Avebury Stonehenge copy that is on this 19.5 parallel, which is exactly the same thing that's going on Earth with Teotihuacan connecting to real Stonehenge, Teotihuacan being on the 19.5 parallel. So I think it's just the way planets are formed. Like this is just a part of whether you live in a simulation or whether we live in a prison planet or whether it's just a round ball flying in space. This is how it's constructed. You know what I mean? I think it's fucking interesting.
I love that. I mean, if you think of so below, right? Like if you think about humans, we all have the similar proportions. We have similar systems. Like sometimes shit goes wrong, but in general, you can count on like your heart's going to be here and their veins are going to be like this. And it's be kind of the same idea.
Exactly. So I think there's this natural system that is linked for some reason by the rivers. So whether like I forgot today. I wanted to I don't know anything about how the internet works. And to be honest, I feel like most people don't know how the internet works really. But I'd be curious to see like what the inside of a modem looks like, and if compare the inside of a modem and the wires and the chips to what, like, say, for instance, like the Nile Valley looks like, and like do the pyramids, like are the rivers like the Ethernet cables? You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
Or, like, and the pyramids,
like information travels along that.
Exactly. And the pyramids, like, so you guys did the water episode the other day, right?
Like, we did like an energy episode, and so we talked about water a little bit.
I haven't listened to it because I've been really only listening to Ancient Civilization podcasts since we picked a date for this, just to make sure. But the idea being like talk about like instant transmission, like teleportation, like the beam me up Scotty idea, is that we're made primarily of water. We know that water has a memory. We know that there's quantum entanglement, which links atoms at a distance. So what if the rivers are linked? Like we're all vibrations. What if it's able to take that memory, reassemble you somewhere else?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, I wonder if it's like what you're saying could also be just non-physical, because especially in connection with resurrection, where you would have maybe 3 days of your body lying motionless or dead, where your astral body maybe or some other form of you is traveling along this system. Like that could also be a way that it's done, maybe.
Totally. I think that totally 100%. I think that that's all the time. I think you can go in the pyramid or you can go into these stone chambers and have these shamanic journeys any day of the week. But I think you can literally move physical material on these important days. That's the synchronicities. So that's like you find the information out by taking the shamanic journey, and then you utilize the information by getting this knowledge. Like when they tell you that the plant told me about how to mix ayahuasca together. I mean, I never would have found it. Well, the shamanic journey, the shining ones, the radiant God told me what day to enter the river so I can get sent off to the Pleiades and meet him for the first time. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
Something like that. But then it also is connected to it's just the hard drive, or it's like the hard wires of the planet. So this is it's also how they're gonna open up the abyss. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's tough to suss out. It's multifaceted. You know what I mean? I don't have the answers that we would have figured it out by now. But
the best answer is going to address each of those levels. It's not going to be just physical. It's not going to be just astral. It's not just going to be informational. It's not going to be just energetic. It's going to be all of those things in some way, because those are all the levels that we exist on.
Exactly. Yeah. So in the three-dimensional plane, the physical reality, rivers are literally how energy, water is energy. This planet, is literally how the energy is transferred around the planet on a physical level. So I'm wondering if that's the same case on a metaphysical level, or on a higher plane, a lower plane, if that's you actually move the energy of the spiritual world through these fucking wires. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If that makes any sense.
It makes perfect sense to me. I love this theory so much, and I'm so glad that we finally got to get it out. And I think we could definitely do another episode where we suss out even more aspects of this, and tie it to things like pop culture. I know you've done a lot of work with that as well. I've had my own synchronicities since you've told me this with things like Arcadia, this graphic novel that you talked about Arcadia to me, and I was like, what's Arcadia? And then I went into a graphic or a comic book store and saw it on the shelf, Arcadia, and I was like, oh, I have to fucking buy it now. And it's this super Gnostic tale of opening the abyss, death and rebirth. It's just fucking crazy. And I'm like, what the hell? So I really would love to get back with you again to do more on this. And I also hope that you hook up with Michael Wan, and maybe who was the woman you mentioned, Mary Sutherland? And then ideally the guy that did the river delta grid system too. So it would be so fun.
Tracy Twyman's the one. I want you to reach out to Tracy Twyman.
I would love to talk.
She was just on Ground Zero. She was just on Ground Zero a couple nights ago.
Oh, that would be so fun.
So she's back in the game, I guess. I just don't know how to. I don't know how to get. I don't know how to reach out to her anymore though.
Maybe I'll try to do that. That's a really good idea.
It'd be fucking awesome. Yeah.
So then I want to give you a few more minutes to, if you want to add anything to how the elites are possibly trying to co-opt this system. You had some ideas about what their goals were.
Yeah. So basically, I think this, essentially, just to sum it all up, this is the breakaway civilization. This is the ancient knowledge that separates the elites from everyone else. If you have access to this system of travel in a time before ships, you have such a fucking huge advantage. If you have this knowledge on a planet that doesn't allow you to escape into space, if that's the case, that's a huge piece of knowledge.
And you can escape.
It's to know the doors to get out of there. Yeah, exactly. And if you know, I think it's on planet and off planet. If you can get to Japan instantly from here, and then if you can get to Orion instantly from there, you know what I mean? That's fucking huge. And then I think it just links every piece of paranormal and fringe that you can think of. I mean, obviously ancient civilizations are going to be on rivers because for all the exoteric reasons, but there's no reason why fucking Raytheon or NASA or anything like that should be on rivers right now. CERN's on a river, everything.
Yeah.
That doesn't make any it's everything. So my goal for this is that you did it the other day, is when hearing a story, you ask, is it on a river? And that's what I want out of this, pretty much. People to ask, what's the terrain? What's the physical terrain? What time did it happen at? I mean, who controls this land? What's near it? Is there a river near it? Zoom out a little bit. Stonehenge and Avebury are treated like two separate sites. But if you zoom out just a little bit, it's these two sites with a river running through it. That looks like a fucking microchip to me or something like that. You know what I mean? That's, I think, how it works. So with the elites, I think that they're using this schedule of when and where to do these things, to and all these terrorist attacks, 9/11, fucking everything. There was one picture of Sandy Hook and stuff, all done on these ley lines. They call it the ley line of death, just to charge this system for if it needs blood, if the other side needs blood or whatever. The idea is that's what it's done on it. So the Salem witch trials were a blood ritual. You know what I mean? And then it was popped off by the guy who did a blood ritual over in England by killing the King of England. You know what I mean? And then fucking 4 months ago, the Columbia Gas Company just blew up fucking 100 houses, all in this exact Columbia. Yeah, like you remember that, right? Like, so that's in this. So I want people to do this in their own backyard. Like, I don't think I'm special. I don't think this region is special. I think everyone can do this. Some people might have, some places might be more than others, but like, I think there's thousands of these spots. So thus they're fucking everywhere. And then, so, if we do that, if we map out the churches, if we map out the government buildings, if we map out all the stuff in our own backyard, then when something like 100 houses fucking blow up in my town, I can say like, whoa, 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 like, this is why it happened here. Like, this is the spot. This is the exact spot. Like, a map of the sites is the map of the explosions.
Yes.
It's the same. It's 1 and 1. It's the same exact thing. And then that happens to be in the same site as the Salem witch trials. Like, are they doing these rituals on these sites on purpose? And then I think these goals are to open portals when they're not supposed to be, to co-opt this natural system that exists on every planet, like Crowley does, and all in Parsons and et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
To return favor from individual entities, but also to bring about this new Jerusalem and this new world order, which is the collapsing of the pillars and the resurrection of the Titans, or Kronos, or Leviathan.
And the avoidance of their karmic death.
And the avoidance of their final death at the end. Yeah, they have to pay the piper.
Jailbreaking the abyss. Fuck.
Exactly. And then, interestingly, just like, I think there's that main line that goes up the East Coast that I showed you, but I also think there's like, you can connect churches to each other too. Like, there's like way smaller lines that intersect. Like, it's just microcosm, macrocosm. You can zoom in and out. And then, interestingly, like, if you look at the Raytheon map with all the dots, and then the Lockheed map, it almost like creates like a X almost. And at the X is like the biggest building in the fucking area in the Merrimack Valley.
Yeah.
Called the Cross Point Building. It's like
Cross Point.
It's the closest thing we have to a skyscraper. On one side it says Cross Point, and on one side it says Kronos. Which is Saturn, Time, the one who's the Titan, who's the Leviathan, the guy. Like, you know what I mean?
And these people, when they're putting their money into this shit, like, they chose that spot on purpose. They chose that name on purpose. Yeah. They're not dumb.
Exactly. So
fucking crazy.
Yeah. So I guess I just don't want to. As soon as we press end, I'm just gonna remember so much shit that I didn't include.
That's why you're gonna come back again, and we're gonna talk more about every thread that we possibly can, because we just touched like the beginning to put the ideas together into your one theory, but but yes, this has been a beautiful.
Just look for portals. Just look. I mean, look for rivers. Look for just the start out at home first. Check out who, like, the most elite stuff in your area: churches, government buildings, etc., reservations. Connect them. See any patterns. Spread it out. Maybe after that, if we all do that, then we'll have a complete map. And if that complete map is the secret, is the knowledge that separates us from them, then we got to. And they're doing these rituals on this map, these killings, and we, like, if I had this information a year ago, maybe we could have stopped the Columbia gas explosions. Like,
or at the very least, they're not the only people with that power anymore. We can use it for good.
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
All right. Well, we're going to bring this to a close. So, fellow travelers of the path, it is a beautiful thing. This has been your analog, electric, concentric dose of wisdom, according to Derek motherfucking Murphy. Derek, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Lindsay. I just got to say, I'm unbelievably impressed with everything you do in this podcast. It's fucking awesome. This Bloodlines series, this Illuminati Bloodline series, is fucking gripping. Like, I've been like suggesting it to people. It's fucking deep. Like, the DuPont one is one of my favorite podcasts I've heard in a long time in general.
That was pretty fire.
Like,
that was a
Claude
good one.
is fucking killing it. Claude's really good. Like,
yeah.
He's really good. And the fact, like, I was really nervous to follow up Michael and Crow. Like, that's a big deal. I'm very proud of you.
Crow said, he's just a guy too, right? We're all just people, and we're all just doing what we can. And I really appreciate the shout out, and thank you very much. But I think that's part of what you're saying and what I'm saying is that people, anyone can go out and do anything that they can to kind of shed more light on whatever it is hidden, and every single one of us matters in that endeavor. So I really appreciate it, though.
You're doing a really good job. I mean, I'm sure if you were to look at like some of the most successful podcasts, even like the Joe Rogan podcast, and look at his first 20 episodes, and not that fucking good. And, like, you are doing a really good job so quick out of the gate. It's just very impressive.
Thank you.
As your friend and seeing it from the beginning, it's fun to see. So
Well,
you're doing a great job.
not many people may know, but you're like the person who pushed me into podcasting. So thank you.
You're gonna do it. You're gonna do it. No, it's great.
Right.
I'm proud of you. Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Thanks for being here. So there is definitely a battle for your mind, friends, and you are incredibly lucky when you can wrestle back control of your mind from those who would occlude their work from your eyes. If they are working to keep grottos, solar alignments, ley line portals, and river alchemy from you, you can bet it would serve you best to do everything in your power to understand why. You are, as you know by now, way more powerful than anyone tends to want you to believe, and anything they can do, you can do better. Like Derek encourages us to do, go look in your own backyard for the sacred spaces that have been co-opted or hidden entirely and take them back. I hope to travel with you through river portals and sun lines far into the future and in and out of every dimension. But until then, travel well, aim for balance, and always look inside first.